Hello and welcome. Actress Glenn Close's brilliant career peaked again this year when she won an Oscar nomination for Best Supporting Actress for her performance in Hillbilly Elegy opposite Amy Adams. It was yet another strong performance from Glenn, whose lengthy career has included The Big Chill, The World According to Garp, as well as Jagged Edge and Fatal Attraction. I spoke to her shortly after she'd completed the iconic baseball fable The Natural with Robert Redford, and the controversial Something About Amelia with Ted Danson, which confronts the difficult subject of incest. And while we spoke about both films, we also touched on some lighter topics, like Glenn's youth and her unusual childhood hero.
Let's start with The Natural. It is, in many ways, a small role. I mean, certainly in time on screen for you. I was just interested, why did you take it?
Why did I take that role?
Yes.
Well, I actually was set to do another film, and it didn't work out.
Oh, I see.
And they also they were very aggressive in getting me for Iris. And I guess fate had that in mind, because I ended up doing it.
How do you mean aggressive? How do you mean they were aggressive?
They were. I read for Barry Levinson. I had never met him, and he had never met me. And I went in to meet him in New York, and I read for him. He had initially asked me to read both Iris and Memo, and I just got around to reading Iris, and he liked it so much that from that moment he kind of wanted me to do the part.
Right.
And they kept after me.
But why do you say it was an aggressive approach?
Because when I told them that I couldn't do it, they wouldn't take that for an answer.
What, did they offer you more money or a lot more lines or what?
I can't remember what they. Well, they were augmenting the role all through the, pre-production. Because in the novel, it's even smaller.
Oh, I see, right.
Yeah, so they did goose up the role of Iris quite a bit.
Right. What was the movie that fell through for you?
It's called The Bostonians.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, what happened there? Because I've seen that, and obviously you were set for the Vanessa Redgrave role?
Yeah.
Ah.
I was fired.
You were fired?
I was fired because my agent had a big fight with the producer, and the producer, they were trying, it's just, it's all past history, but they fired me.
Right.
And so I ended up doing The Natural.
Wow. And I guess you're happy that you did.
It's all political stuff, all that kind of thing.
Yeah, sure. Tell me, what is your interpretation of the style of Barry Levinson's adaptation? To me, it seems to be like a sporting fairy tale.
Well, I think that's quite on the nose. I think the story itself, the novel that it's taken from, does walk a very fine line. And when I first read the script of The Natural, that's what I really loved about it. I thought it was rather extravagant, but just close enough to life to have people that you could possibly care about.
Yeah. Are you a baseball fan, as it seems most?
I love baseball.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's, of course, one of the problems that Fox Columbia, who are distributing the film here, are worried about, because baseball, though it is played in Australia, is very much a minority sport.
Yeah.
It's kind of like rugby in America.
I would think, though, that any sport, I don't think you have to know all the rules and everything, because I think it's a pretty universal type of story.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's sports that you're more familiar with than I am, where it comes down to one moment, to one person either coming up with the goods or not coming up with the goods.
Yeah. But this, yes, and I suppose that is one of the essences of this story, but it's almost a mystery as well, because we really don't discover very much about Roy Hobbs until near the end.
Right.
Tell me about Iris. What sort of a woman did you see her as? Because she's not gone after Roy from her younger days.
Well, I mean, what happened to her is she was, grew up on a farm in Nebraska, loving this man, conceived a child out of wedlock when she was 18 and didn't see the father for 15 years. And the extraordinary thing about her, and actually the mythic quality of her, is that she didn't say not one phone call.
Yes. Not one.
She raised the child, and I think she's had a hard time with it, and she's made do. And I thought that was the most interesting thing about her, was the fact that she wouldn't throw herself at his feet when he reappeared in her life, but she wanted to know what kind of man he had become, and whether he was the father that she needed for her child.
There is no hint, at least I couldn't remember any hint in the first part of the film, that they had in fact made love and that she might possibly become pregnant. Did I miss something?
It's when we're in the barn.
Yeah.
And we kiss, and then I kind of pull him off into the shadows, and he hesitates, and I say, "It's all right."
Aha.
I mean, that's it.
Aha. Right. Right. I mean, not that I was expecting anything.
Well, maybe it's an immaculate conception.
You clearly have a wonderful sense of humor. I've just been reading your production biography here. Where you talk...
What did they say?
Oh, well, you'd be surprised what they say for the version out here.
Oh.
No, not really. But I was just quite intrigued about your, one of your heroes when you were young was Hopalong Cassidy.
Oh, yes, I loved him. But I always pretended I was Lucky, his sidekick, because Lucky was extremely handsome. I thought Lucky was great. And my sister usually played Hoppy, and I was Lucky.
Well, what?
Hoppy was my real hero.
Why?
Yeah, his black shirt, his black clothes. He actually was kind of a combination of good and bad. It's very rare that the good guy wears black.
Oh, true, that's right.
He did ride a white horse.
But why Hopalong Cassidy? Why not, Calamity Jane or Superman or Batman or Batgirl?
I was not as young when Batman came out.
Right.
The other ones that could have been, I loved the Lone Ranger.
Right.
But of the Lone Ranger, I loved Tonto the best, because Jay Silverfield was just a magnificent, obviously magnificent person. And Gene Autry was a little too slick for me, and never seemed to be a real cowboy.
And why all cowboys? Why not perhaps a more urban or mythical hero?
Well, I grew up in the country, and was lucky enough we had Shetland ponies when we were growing up, and so it just seemed I thought it was silly to play Indians because that was too far-fetched. And cowboys seemed to be the closest thing. And we had a very, even though it was Connecticut, we could have been in Iowa. We had a lot of land to run around on, and were actually kept very much to ourselves in a way.
You strike me then as a bit of a tomboy when you were young.
Oh, very much. I was very fast and very feisty.
Oh, really? So where did the change come about to the elegant actress that we now know?
Well, all my friends know that that's just one side of me. There's a whole other side, which is, different. I think the side which seems to have been portrayed most in film is that's also a very strong part of my heritage is the Connecticut I'll say mystique, I suppose, the New England strong Yankee background. I have had wonderful strong women in my family, and that must come from them.
Right. Well, yes, looking down further here, I see that you even went on to play Romeo in Shakespeare's school production.
That's right.
You're obviously attracted by the very strong roles, aren't you?
Well, not necessarily. I think the roles that I've played in film so far have been than strong women, but on stage it's been much more varied.
Give me an example.
Oh, I played in a play called The Singular Life of Albert Nobbs, which was about a woman who actually existed in Victorian Ireland who disguised herself as a man in order to survive as a waiter, and it wasn't as though she was pretending to be a man. She was a total innocent. She was a woman who was brought up in a convent and had absolutely no idea of her own sexuality or anything, and she was basically ended up being trapped in this disguise, and she was a very delicate innocent.
Right.
And the character I just played in the real thing is, I mean, she has strong elements to her, but she also is very, very spontaneous and quite inarticulate.
Right. You also, I haven't seen it, but I've read something about it in some of the American magazines, a television film called Something About Amelia.
Oh, yeah.
Was that the one about incest?
Yeah.
Right. Well, you played the mother, did you?
Yeah.
That must have been a very interesting role.
It was. I really loved doing that, actually. It was a very, very strong, very dramatic piece of writing. And that's the reason why I did it. When I first heard what the subject matter was, I said absolutely no, because I could hardly say the words myself.
Mm.
But I read it, and it was extremely honest, I thought, and a great dramatic piece, if nothing else. And the character is this woman who is extremely unhappy in her marriage and doesn't communicate well with her oldest daughter. Incest doesn't occur in a happy family. And all of a sudden, one day, she finds out that her daughter has accused her husband of sexually molesting her. And, you know, that's a huge challenge to play a character like that. And I found it thrilling.
What was the reaction from the American public? Because they tend to be generally pretty conservative.
It got an enormous response. It was handled extremely sensitively, and I thought very, very responsibly by ABC. They had hotlines in all the major areas where children could call or anyone could call who needed to talk to someone, and they had an overwhelming response. It got a huge, very high ratings. They had done very good publicity about it. They'd had articles written, you know, responsible, thoughtful articles about the problem. And I think the best thing about it is that I think it actually did something to help the situation of those who have suffered from that and have never been able to talk about it.
Yes, I'm sure it would have. You've done another film with one of my very favourite actors, Robert Duvall, The Stone Boy. Yeah. What's that like? I know basically the story because Robert was out here last year for Angela, My Love.
Yeah. That we play a couple who are just very simple Montana farmers, and one day the youngest son, by mistake, shoots the older son, and it's how the family deal with that tragedy.
Have you seen?
The little boys are kind of emotional catatonia, and people who basically are inarticulate with themselves to begin with, how they do or don't deal with it.
Right. And again, you're obviously the mother, yes. Yeah. You play a lot of mother roles, do you find?
I do. I think it's because of Jenny Fields.
Yeah, I'm sure it is. I'm sure it is. Do you, you're not married, of course, are you?
No, I'm not.
Have you ever been married?
I was married quite a while ago.
Right.
In another life.
In another life? Is that literal or metaphysical?
Metaphysical.
So you have never been married?
Oh, no, I've been married.
You have. Do you have children?
No, I don't.
Right. But you obviously have the capacity to relate greatly in those sort of roles.
Yeah, I think I do. I have a wonderful mother myself who is one of the great ladies in my life, and she has been a great mother to me. And as I said before, I have two very fascinating wonderful grandmothers. Actually, one now. My mother's mother died last year.
Right.
So I've had good role models.
Yes. What about? I mean, it's certainly not a matter of typecasting at all. Playing mothers, because they're a variety of individuals, of course. But do you hanker to perhaps break out and play perhaps a more flamboyant woman on the screen?
I will. I'm doing a movie in October, and it will be a total departure.
What is the movie?
It's not been announced yet, so I can't really talk about it. I'm out here actually to have meetings about it, so I don't.
Right.
Really,
Well, without it, can you talk about the character? I mean, what sort of a woman is she?
Because it's kind of it's a great. It's a wonderful, wonderful comedy.
Oh, really?
And I'm very excited about it.
Right. Oh, that's great. And The Natural in the States, has that done at the box office big commercial business, or is it sort of unwinding as a...
I've been I really dropped out of sight about 10 days ago, and I picked up one of the, I think it was Oscar Magazine or something a couple of days ago, and they listed The Natural as the second top grossing film of the summer, so I guess it's been doing rather well.
Right. I think a lot of ladies out here would probably lynch me if I don't ask you what it was like working opposite Robert Redford. So may I?
Yes. I would love to work with him again, in either as an actor or to be directed by him. I think he is I had a wonderful time with him. I got along very well with him. He's a very private man, so I wouldn't presume to say that I know him. But what I do know him, I'm very impressed by.
He strikes me...
To work with, he was generous. He's a perfectionist. I think, has very good taste. He also is a thinker. He's maintained a value system from way before he was as famous as he is. And I found him just to be a really good human being.
He strikes me as being a very easygoing person.
Easygoing?
Yes.
Not necessarily. I mean, my perception, again, I don't know him very well. He has a great sense of humor. But he does, because he's such a private person, he does tend to... he's not the kind of person that would attract people who don't know him to him. You kind of keep your distance.
Right.
Unless you're somehow made to feel that it's all right.
Right.
You know?
Oh, that's interesting.
Duval is much more kind of one of the boys, one of the guys.
Duval is?
Yeah.
Yeah, particularly near a tennis court.
Right. I think Redford is probably as competitive as Duval.
Is he? Yeah. That's interesting. Well, Glenn, thank you very much for talking to me.
Thank you very much.
Following her Oscar-winning performance in Hillbilly Elegy, Glenn has gone on to make Swan Song, a science fiction drama, and is in pre-production on the long-awaited remake of Sunset Boulevarde. But this new version is not based on the 1950 Gloria Swanson-William Holden version, but rather on the Broadway musical version by Andrew Lloyd Webber and Christopher Hampton. So that's certainly something to watch out for.